Hello everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. I thought we'd pop by and create a card inspired by snippets. So I often say when I'm doing the snippets, these can inspire further ideas. So when you create them, you can get further ideas from them. That's the whole point with the snippets, that you can look back and they inspire you in different ways. So I created snippet 75 and 76, and I want to show how it can inspire a more detailed card. So we're going to do that. So let's just place that out of the way. So I like to try and come back and follow up with what I'm saying all the time. So I often say things and I want to make sure I follow up on that. So I often mention with the snippets that, oh, this can inspire further ideas, or you can take it as far as you want. So I'm going to show you how I'm going to take that snippet, how I'm going to take this snippet and take it a little bit further. Excuse me. So I'm going to use avocado. Am I going to use that one? Do you think? Bear with me. Excuse me. Just trying to decide which colour I want to use, because I didn't decide that before I press record. Well, let me just see if I want that. Yes, something a little bit more purpley. Right. So I've got a piece of Pink Frog Smooth card, 300 GSM. And I'm using some of the new colours from the VersaFine Clair, which I did in the snippets. I used the new colours. And when I have something, or I bring something to my website, I like to show that we're going to use them and they're not just going to gather dust. There we go. So when I release stamps, I like it to not just be about the new releases all the time. I like to show that even when I bought stamps out, say 3 months ago, they're still new, you know, and they can still be used. It's sort of encompassing those with your new releases and not forgetting them so they don't gather dust. So we're going to expand on the snippet idea. So I'm going to begin with Lilac Bloom. So I'm using lilac this time. I'm going to, just like I did with the snippets, we'll just grab a little bit of a wipe, just so that we can clean our mess up as we go along. Then I'm going to use the avocado. Now, it doesn't matter whether they're straight, slightly slanted, it doesn't matter. There we go. So we're just expanding on the idea. We can clean this up with hand sanitizer afterwards. Then we're going to go back to the Lilac Bloom. Like so. Just clear the thick up so that we don't get it in too much of a mess. Then we'll go back to the avocado. So you're just adding them here and there in different heights. So we've got that across the bottom of our card. Let's just use a little bit of hand sanitizer just to remove that, so it's a little bit cleaner. Plus it smells really nice as well. So let's just give that a clean. Now what we would normally do is dry that, because if I just hold this up, you can, there you go. Can you see here? That's wet. But I'm not going to dry it, just so that we don't kill the card. All that I'm going to do is grab some copy paper that has had embossing powder on, so we'll make sure that we don't, just to blot, or we can just crease the paper, just to blot that a little bit. Not much ink's come off there anyway. So then I think I put the stamp set back, trying to get into good habits of putting things back. So I'm going to take my Quirky birds. We're going to use the Quirky birds, and it's entirely up to you what you use. So let's add one bird there, and we're just like we did with the snippet. We're going to add our Quirky birds. I'm going to add this one here. And if you don't have to press hard, you just need to allow the ink. The VersaFine Clair is beautiful because it stays wetter longer. So you just need to allow that ink and to absorb onto the card. Now this white area will be absorbent. If you were stamping on here, that would be less absorbent because you've got that layer already on there. So let's just lift our card. You can use your stamping platform if you find that a little bit easier. So let's just remove this. And if you're going to remove stamps like I am, or mess around with stamps that have got black ink on, just make sure your fingers are clean. So what do I want to do now? So that's going to face that way, isn't it? My stamps are so well used, they need a clean at the back of the stamp. I'll then take another one. Shall we add you here or there? Yes, there. So we'll take this bird, now before you go over your card, you know I said that, oh, my stamps are well used so they fall off. Really, I should make sure that those are cleaned. I've changed my mind because I'm going to put this here. I should really clean the back of the stamps before I actually go over the project, because they could fall off and then make a black mark on your card. So we really should clean, or Tracy should really clean the back of those. There we go. And then let's just grab another acrylic block. And let's grab this bird here with the text on, which I can feel is covered in embossing powder and mess. So you can wash these and then you'll get the stickiness back again. That's going to stay on there. Do you like our check? So we'll just add this little birdie here. And I love sort of expanding ideas and just having fun. So we'll just can you see how many times I pat the stamp just to make sure there's plenty of ink on there? And then we'll add this little bird here, like so. Go. So we've got our stamp there. And then let me just, I might just leave it at the 3, I don't know. Now I'm going to put part of one there as well. So we'll take our bird again, and I'm going to ink the whole bird, even though I know some of it will miss the card and go onto the non-stick craft sheet. But it's better to ink the whole thing and miss parts of the stamp. Just have that there, and again just allow that just to sit on the card a little bit, just so that you get a good image. But it's already showing you how you can expand the idea on your card. And let's try not to use the embossing powder side, and let's just give that a little bit of a blot. Now the black tends to be, I find, a little bit wetter than the other inks, but no, that's absolutely fine. But there will still be moisture in that ink. What can you see? Just added. I love how there's just part of one there. Now let me just check something. Don't want it there. I'm going to add part of this bird as well. Just because I'm enjoying myself, really. You do realise I'm going to faff deciding where I'm going to put. Now there's only a tiny bit of this bird on the card, but I quite like that. And on purpose, I've made this white card the same size as a snippet, 4 by 6 inches. And it's funny, the green stained my non-stick craft sheet more than the black, but I've now got an odd number on there, which is quite nice. I really like that. But I'm going to show you how to do, I haven't got one, I should have cut another card out, but we can do that. I'm going to show you how it can look different in 2 ways. We've got to add colour on there, and just while that dries a little bit, I have got another piece of card here, and I'm sure it's 4 by 6. Oh, it is. How fortunate is that? So I'm showing you 2 different ideas just because we can. So I'm going to use the Lilac Bloom again. And don't worry about whether this is straight or not. That's not what it's about. It's just the technique. Okay. Again, that is soaking wet. Just be aware of that. It's shining, so it's nice and wet. Let's just decide which is the... Then we'll take our Quirky birds again. Ink that in the black. And we've then used all the Quirky birds on our projects. There we go. Just to show you how you can get, you know, from your snippet, creating other ideas, which I just adore. I've got this at a funny angle. So there's that one. And we can take our other bird, and you can now see why I made sure that one bird was facing the opposite way. There we go. Let's just add you to here. Preferably straight, which I nearly didn't do then. There we go. This has got a little bit more black on there, so, you know, it has that silhouette feel. So just give that a little bit longer. Then I'm going to just grab the little abutilon, but I just want to use the word imagine again, just like we did before. Take the word imagine. It always works out nicely if you actually place it straight, Tracy, rather than slanted. Add the word imagine. At the top. Now I'm going to take my little abutilon. So let's take the little abutilon. And again, just make sure your stamp's got plenty of stickiness on there. Just make sure you can see what I'm doing. And now we've been going 17 minutes, and these could quite easily be another snippet, quite easily. I want it from the, oh, no. So from the eye. There we go. So these could quite easily be other snippets. There we go. So we've got the abutilon coming from the imagine. So like how honestly, I love playing. And this is why I give you small elements, larger elements, because I love the play possibilities that you can have. So add that from the E, like so. Brilliant. And I like to show how those stamps work together beautifully. Let's just give that a little bit of a blot. So you can see the abutilon sort of comes from the imagine word. Just like when we did the snippet, I added so the heart was attached to the imagine. So then, oops, you've got two different ideas. We need to colour, but you've got two different ideas there. We need to add some colour, so we'll let that one dry a little bit. And then we'll take our heart that's on the Quirky birds. I love this heart. I could do a card just with that quite easily. We just take the heart and add this here. Like so, one there. And then stamp it again. And all you have to remember is when you're stamping with black ink, if you find that you get in a little bit of a mess, copier paper is your best friend. We'll just leave that. Yes, I'll leave that like that. And then we'll take the smaller hearts from the same little quirky birds. We'll just add these little hearts here. Exactly the same shape, because it's that attention to detail. So we're just building up the composition to our project. So where we're going to add, so we'll just add a couple of little hearts there. So we're just adding to our composition and building that composition. And now we're going to do a little bit of colouring, but just to be on the safe side, I'm just going to blot. Now, if I was using my Prismacolors, I'd give that a dry with my heat tool, because I wouldn't want to pick up any of that ink from the project. Yes, that's all fine. So then we're going to colour our project, and we're going to use the Ecoline pens. So I'm going to take a piece of pink frog card, and do I want to add a nice deep purple? And always test your colours, because that looks dark there, doesn't it? It's not that dark on there. And that is ultramarine violet. What colour are you? See the difference? This is blue violet. I'd say that I'd have thought that had got more blue in, but that one, so I want that colour. Let's have a look. It's always good to test those colours. Or roll it straight over your card. So we can use that to blend it. And then let's grab a green. If you've got your colour swatches, you're super organised. I haven't. So we've got bronze green. There we go. Let's have a look. What colour are you? That's bronze. Oh, I seem to have duplicates. So it's probably going to be that one. There we go. And if you wish, if you want to add more depth to your colouring, you can always add pencil over the top. Personally, I would be careful if you're adding water to these. So I'm going to grab my water brush. First of all, making sure that's clean, which everybody knows me by now and knows it won't be clean. I'm going to have some kitchen roll just so I can dab off any excess moisture. So I would recommend doing one bird at a time. So I'm starting with the blue violet 548. And we're just going to add a little bit of that all the way around the edge of the bird. And then I'm going to just blend that out, blend the lines out, pen to pen, whilst it is still wet. It's best when it's still wet. And then I'm going to just use my acrylic block, add a little bit of the darker one, and then I'm just going to have a little bit of water and I'm sort of going to pick up a mix of both, because then I've got a wash of colour that I can just blend that with. Why I've put the lids back on, because you'll find that a bit irritating, me keep putting the lids back on. Let's add a little bit of, and just pick those colours up and just blend that out, but leave a little bit of a white area there. And I would definitely just recommend do one at a time. So then we'll add the darkest colour around the edge, and you can't get easier colouring than this. Simplest way to colour ever. So then go to the lightest colour, which is the Pastel Violet 579, and blend out the harsh lines to the first colour, pen to pen, but that's only going to work if your pen is, you know, both of those are wet. Don't try to do it if they're dry. There we go. So I've just blended it a little bit lighter there. And then what we're going to do is we'll add a little bit of green to these. So we'll take the darker colour, just like before. Then we'll blend with our lighter colour whilst that pen and the layer of ink is wet. You don't even have to add the water if you don't want. And then I'm going to add, she says, unable to get the lid off, a little bit of the green just to the stripes, just to see. I can just blend pen to pen if I wish, and just leave a little white area. Add a little bit more of the lighter colour, and then again go to the next bird, add that darker purple, and because it's such a small area on this one, I'm just blending pen to pen like you would as if you were using alcohol pens. Then we'll just add a touch of that green. There we go. And then we'll add a touch of the green to these hearts here. Do you like how I've forgotten one little bird? Poor bird. Just make sure you can see what I'm doing. And then going to add, again, this is a smaller area, so pen to pen will be sufficient. And as long as you do that, when that's wet, you'll get a lovely blend, just so that you can see that. Then we'll bring in this one, just so that you can see. Again, let's just place a little bit of card on there, just so that we don't lean on that. So again, we're just going to, so you've seen me add water and blend with a diluted version, and I'm just going to show you, even in a bigger area, as long as that pen and ink is wet, can blend the edges beautifully. But I like to just add a little bit of a wash just to blend it out a little bit lighter. It just works so well. And then just leave a little white area. So again, we'll come to this bird. I like easy methods to colour that everybody can achieve. So then that pen is wet. So take this pen to it and you'll blend that out. Then we'll add just a touch of the green here. We'll just place the card on here so we don't lean on anything. And then just bear with me one moment. There we go. And then we can colour the Ecoline. Time goes so quick when you're being creative. And again, you've only got a small area to colour, so it doesn't have to be too precise, but you still want it to look the part. A little bit of green there. And then we're going to start with our dark colour. Like so. And then just do one at a time because we'll want the ink to be wet. Then you can blend that ink pen to pen and just leave a little bit of a white area at the bottom. I didn't even add any shading on there. And then again, add the darkest colour. And whilst that ink is wet, just blend that pen to pen. And it works beautifully whilst it is wet. And then we'll just blend that with the lighter colour. And we'll come to this one. And we can add our touches of white. Let's just make sure our hands are clean because I've got embossing powder on this card and I can feel it on my hand. But let me just show you these. Just look at this. Just completely different than the snippet. Don't they work well? I just think they work really well. Right, we haven't finished. We're enjoying ourselves. Tracy can't speak. Right, let's just clean our acrylic block. And this is why Tracy's acrylic blocks get in such a mess. What was I going to do? Oh yes. Then I'm going to take TE12, which is the shadowed elements. I think the stamp shouldn't have names and just have numbers 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 because it's easy for me to remember. So I've got my little bird now, and the reason I have these tiny little things is because they just add to the design, because sometimes you want smaller elements. So I'm going to add a little bird here. There we go. And then we'll add add a little bird here, all from one snippet. There we go. We'll add some touches of white to that shortly. Bring this one in. There we go. And we'll add you here. Just give that, even when it's a small stamp, just give that time to absorb onto the card. And you can always tell when I'm enjoying myself because there's nowhere to put anything. So what I'm going to do then is let's just place this back, as I will end up with stamps everywhere. There we go. But the minute you start handling stamps, that's when you get some black ink all over you. I'm then going to use shadowed elements. No. What's this one called? Yeah, background elements. The other one was shadowed elements. So I'm going to use background elements. I'm just going to add just a little touch of black to the text, and I'm just going to add a couple of little touches of text just to the base. Just curl the stamp very slightly, and I'm pressing very lightly. I've got one of my hairs stuck to the stamp. I can see it, but I can't pull it. There we go. I will lift this up so that you can see it. I think there's still enough on here. Perfect. So again, that black will still be wet, but just so that you can see, there's little touches of text on there as well. I'm going to add some white splatters and then decide where I need to add my touches of white. So let's bring in both pieces of card. Just give that Posca pen a little bit of it. And make sure you get some of those touches of white, definitely on the colourful bits and pieces. Let's just there we go. And I've put my white totally out of the way just so that I didn't get wet on everywhere. Then I need to add some touches of green. Just to these hearts. That's better. And I love doing my favourite bit of adding the touches of white. Now, the longer you can leave this, just so it's got time to relax, you can then add your white touches much easier if you make sure it's dry. Obviously, you can dry with your heat tool. Let's just go in the middle of my black card. And we're just going to add some touches of white because it sets things off. if we just have the touches of white. There they are. Just do one card at a time, just so you can concentrate on the areas. Just adding some little touches of white. Now, obviously, we've added those pens on there that have got water on, so this will sort of react with that as well. But you can go in and add that again, but just adding those touches of white. Just lift the whole design. And these are both flat cards with no dimension whatsoever. You could add a dimension if you wished. And then I'm just going to add a couple of little touches just here and there, just to the Ecoline, just to make that sort of pop a little bit more. I love adding the white touches. The only problem is I never know when to stop. I enjoy myself. So now we can add these to our card before we even add an insert. Now, let's take our 5x7 card blanks, is what I've got. Now, I have got a black mat for this one. I didn't cut 2 black mats, but if we add this to the black mat, that then pops. Let's just add that to the black mat. And the card is completely flat. But obviously I've added those white splatters. Just be aware of the white splatters. Let's make sure and that's stuck nice and easy, because we didn't heat anything, so we've got no curled card. You can then add that to your 5x7 inch card blank. Let's just add that. Like so. There we go. So that's added to the 5x7. We've got to add our sentiment yet. Now, this one, I've got no black mat. Now, you've got decisions to make. Where is it? Especially if you can find your pen. Oh, there it is. Now, before you make a card, you'll probably know where you're going, especially if you're following a tutorial from me. So, if you're going to do this, I would do this at the beginning. So, in other words, I would add a faux black mat to a piece of white card before you even start. Just so that you get that done, and then if you make any errors, it doesn't matter because it's a piece of card. Whereas if I make errors now, it's my whole piece of artwork. So just be aware of that it's better to do that in the beginning. So just warning you about that. But obviously I didn't know where I was going, so therefore I didn't add. What a mess. And this is why I always clean up after I've used black ink, just because it does make a little bit of a mess. And that's why sometimes I draw my lines on copier paper, because then you've got no clean up. But now this one has got a faux black mat rather than a piece of card as a black mat. So then let's grab this piece of copier paper. We've then got our 5x7 card blank, and I'll show you the difference. So then hopefully I've given you a few ideas following snippets 75 and 76. Just add. Now when you're at this stage and you've got a faux black mat on there, make sure you've got it in the right place, and then use a piece of copier paper so that, I mean, there's no ink coming off anyway, but then you're not smudging everything. But that's the one with the faux black mat, which means you've got a wider border, and this is the one with the black mat. Just gives you two different feels to the card. Right, so let's add our sentiments. Well, that one's got Imagine on, but I can still add it again. We've got the stamps out, so I don't know what I'm doing that for. Let's grab the acrylic block. Look how they're all falling off. So let's grab. So the minute you sort of place this on here, you can actually see all the grubbiness and the dirt coming off from the back of your stamp, because that's just ink from your fingers, bits of embossing powder, and it will stick back on to your carrier sheet. So don't worry if your stamps are falling off, just give them a wash in lukewarm water with a bit of soapy water, or just do as I do and clean with a wipe. There we go. So we'll have the Dare to be Different. There we go. Trying to keep my acrylic blocks clean, impossible. Use a scrap of card, and this sentiment says Dare to be Different. Just putting the lid on my adhesive because I know then I'll end up spending 20 minutes trying to get it unclogged. There we go. So we'll just cut that out. It's up to you whether you use the sentiment as is, or you can cut this up. So what I do is I tend to cut it to size, and then that determines whether I'm going to cut it up, and I'm going to cut it up because I want them a bit thinner. And it's really good because if your cutting out isn't perfect of your sentiment, it works quite well with the Quirky birds. It really does. There we go. Now that I've got the copier paper out, I will just add a faux black mat. We used to do this when I had a shop, and we used to do it with Krylon pens. We used to be obsessed with Krylon pens, gold and silver and copper. And we used to edge all our pieces with gold and silver and copper. And the pen would end up with a ridge in there that you could then go to, and the ridge worked quite well because you had like a marker to use. So just let's remove that. Let's bring in a clean piece of copy paper just so that we work clean. And we'll bring this card in. There we go. Just works quite nicely cut up like that because it doesn't cover anything up too much, which is nice. And you've really got 2 cards that you could send in the post quite cheaply, because apart from the sentiment, I mean the other one is completely flat, but apart from the sentiment, it is flat. So there's no dimension on there. So let me just add a little touch of white to there. I told you I was obsessed, didn't I, with adding the touches of white. Now we just want to add a little bit of shading. So let's add a little bit of shading. So I want to add a little bit of shading to the sentiment. Now you well know that I've been using purples, so there's no point trying to blend that black, even though it's a darker colour. So let's just blend the shading. Just adds just that little bit there. Just wonderful. I'll bring the other one in. And what we're going to do is take that moisture off. Let's just take that off for now. What did I do with the little pet? You know, don't put things down. Literally, it's because it's so tiny, my pencil. Just going to add a little bit of shading there. There we go. And that is just lovely, just lovely. So then you've got 2 cards inspired by the snippets, and hopefully give you some more ideas. That little abutilon, now I want to do another card with that little abutilon because I'm loving that. Just love that. So there may be another card to follow. So I hope you've enjoyed the process. Love to all, and I'll see you all soon. Bye for now.